In a dusty frontier town, Elias, a burly lumberjack with a heart heavy from solitude, trudged to the market square. His calloused hands gripped 2 crumpled dollars, all he had left after a season of felling pines. Whispers of an auction swirled. Strange goods, stranger people. Elias, lonely for years, sought something, anything, to fill the void. The crowd buzzed, eyes on a stage where shadows danced. The auctioneer, a wiry man with a crooked grin, barked over the crowd's hum. Next lot, a mystery. He crowed, gesturing to a figure shrouded in a burlap sack. Elias squinted, heart thumping. The figure stood silent, hands bound, sack obscuring their face. Bidding starts at $1. The auctioneer called. Murmurs rippled. Some laughed, others sneered. Elias felt a pull, inexplicable, urgent. $1. A farmer shouted, chuckling. Elias hesitated, his savings meager. But the figure's stillness stirred him, like a tree swaying before a storm. $2. He bellowed, voice cracking. The crowd hushed. The auctioneer's eyes glinted. Sold. Elias stepped forward, coins trembling in his palm. The figure was led to him, sack swaying slightly. He wondered what madness had seized him. Elias untied the ropes, gentle despite his strength. The crowd dispersed, leaving them in the square's fading light. He lifted the sack, heart pounding, expecting anything, a trick, a jest. Beneath was a woman, eyes wide, hair tangled, face smudged but striking. She said nothing, only stared. Elias, tongue-tied, offered water from his canteen. She drank, hands shaking, and he felt a spark of hope. They walked to his cabin, miles from town, through whispering pines. She was silent, clutching the sack like a shield. Elias rambled about his work, the trees, the quiet nights. Her steps were cautious, but she followed. At the cabin, he offered bread and stew. She ate slowly, eyes darting. "You're safe here," he said softly. Her gaze met his, and for a moment, the world felt less heavy. Days passed, and she stayed. Elias gave her a cot, a blanket, space. He chopped wood. She watched from the porch, still wordless. He wondered who she was, why she'd been auctioned. At night, he heard her hum, a soft, haunting tune. It warmed the cabin, easing his loneliness. He didn't press her, sensing wounds deeper than he could see. Patience, he thought, was all he could offer. One morning, she swept the cabin floor, unasked. Elias smiled, splitting logs outside. She began small tasks, mending a shirt, tending the fire. They moved around each other, cautious but kind. He left wildflowers by her cot, a shy gesture. She touched them, a faint smile breaking through. Elias felt his heart stir, not just for company, but for her quiet strength, her mystery. Weeks later, she spoke. "Clara," she whispered at dawn, voice like a breeze through leaves. Elias froze, axe mid-swing. "Your name?" he asked, breathless. She nodded, eyes steady. The word felt sacred, a gift. He repeated it, "Clara," tasting its weight. She smiled, and the cabin seemed to glow. Elias knew then. He loved her, not for her mystery, but for the truth in her name. Clara began to share fragments of her past. Sold by a cruel kin, bound at the auction, she'd known fear but not despair. Elias listened, rage and sorrow mixing in his chest. He vowed to protect her, though words stayed locked inside. Instead, he carved a chair for her, sturdy oak, a silent promise. She sat in it, tracing the grain, and their eyes met, trust budding like spring. The town whispered about the lumberjack and his bought bride. Elias ignored them, but Clara flinched at their stares when they went for supplies. He stood closer, shielding her. One day, a drunk jeered, and Elias's fist clenched. Clara touched his arm, calming him. "They don't know us," she said. Her strength steadied him, and he saw her not as a victim, but a partner. Seasons turned, and Clara bloomed. She planted herbs by the cabin, sang louder, laughed. Elias taught her to swing an axe, her hands steadying under his. They felled a tree together, laughing when it crashed. At night, they sat by the fire, her head on his shoulder. He told her of his dreams, a family, a home. She listened, her silence no longer fear, but comfort. One evening, under a starlit sky, Elias took her hand. "Clara," I don't know much, but I know I want you here, always. His voice shook, raw. She looked at him, eyes bright. I choose you, Elias, she said, her first full sentence since her name. His heart soared. They stood, hands clasped, the forest their witness. No preacher was needed. Their bond was sealed in truth. The next day, Elias traded a cord of wood for a silver ring from a traveling peddler. He slipped it on Clara's finger, clumsy but earnest. She laughed, tears falling, and kissed him. The cabin, once a lonely shell, was now a home. They danced by the fire, her humming filling the air. Elias felt whole, the ache of years gone, replaced by her warmth, her name echoing in his soul. Clara spoke more, her voice gaining strength. She told of a childhood by a river, a mother's lullaby, a life stolen by greed. Elias shared his own, orphaned young, finding solace in the woods. They wove their stories together, past pains easing in the telling. The cabin became their sanctuary, where words and silence held equal weight, each a thread in their growing love. Winter came, blanketing the forest. Elias and Clara worked side by side, stacking wood, sharing warmth. She sewed a quilt, stitching their initials in the corner. He carved her a comb, intricate with vines. Small gifts, but each held a promise. They laughed more, their breaths mingling in the cold air. The town's whispers faded. Their world was here, in the quiet of their love. Spring brought green to the hills, and Clara's herbs thrived. She taught Elias their names: mint, sage, thyme. He built a bench for their porch, where they sat at dusk, watching fireflies. I was lost, she said one night, but you found me. Elias shook his head. We found each other. Her smile was his reward, brighter than the stars. Their life was simple, but it was theirs. A year after the auction, they returned to town. Clara held her head high, Elias's ring glinting on her finger. The townsfolk stared, some with shame, others with awe. The auctioneer, now frail, avoided their gaze. Clara squeezed Elias's hand. Let's go home, she said. They bought seeds, a new axe, and left. The town no longer defined them. Their love did, rooted deep as the pines. At the cabin, Clara baked bread, the scent filling the air. Elias repaired the roof, whistling her lullaby. They worked as one, their rhythm natural. She sketched the forest in charcoal, her hands steady. He read her drawings, seeing her soul in every line. Their days were full, not of grand deeds, but of small joys, shared meals, soft touches, names spoken with love. One night, Clara woke from a nightmare, trembling. Elias held her, whispering her name until she calmed. I'm here, he said, and she clung to him. The darkness passed, but their closeness lingered. She traced his scars, he kissed her brow. Their love was a shield, stronger than fear. Morning came, and they faced it together, her hand in his, their bond unbreakable. Summer arrived, warm and golden. They swam in a creek, laughing like children. Clara's hair shone in the sun, and Elias marveled at her joy. He built a swing from a sturdy oak, and she soared, her laughter echoing. They lay in the grass, dreaming aloud, a child, a garden, a life stretching forward. Each dream felt possible, their love the root of every hope. The townsfolk began to visit, curious, then kind. A baker brought flour, a seamstress offered cloth. Clara welcomed them, her warmth disarming. Elias watched, proud. Their cabin became a haven, not just for them, but for others seeking peace. Clara's past faded. She was no longer the auction woman, but Clara, beloved. Elias's loneliness was a distant memory, replaced by her light. Autumn painted the forest red and gold. Elias and Clara harvested apples, her hands quick, his steady. They pressed cider, their laughter mixing with the crush of fruit. At night, they read by lamplight, her voice soft, his deep. The cabin held their story, every knot in the wood, every stitch in the quilt. Their love was a tapestry, woven from trust, time, and whispered names. Clara fell ill one frosty morning, fever burning. Elias tended her, fear gripping his heart. He brewed her herbs, held her hand, prayed to stars he barely believed in. Days blurred, but she fought, her spirit fierce. When her fever broke, she smiled weakly, saying his name. Elias wept, relief flooding him. Her recovery was their miracle, a testament to their unshakable bond. Winter returned, and they thrived. Clara's health steadied, her laughter brighter. Elias built a cradle, hoping for a future child. She kissed him, promising tomorrow. They danced in the snow, her song rising to the pines. The cabin glowed, warm against the cold. Their love was a fire, steady, eternal, sparked by $2 and a name, now burning bright as the stars. The second anniversary of the auction came. Elias and Clara sat by the fire, her head on his chest. "I'd pay $1,000 for you," he teased. She laughed, "I'm not for sale." They clinked mugs, toasting their life. The sack, long burned, was a ghost, her name, their vow. The forest stood witness, its silence their hymn. They were whole, together, forever. Years later, the cabin stood strong, weathered but warm. Clara's garden bloomed, Elias's carvings adorned the walls. Their child, named Hope, toddled between them, her laughter their song. The town revered them, a tale of love born from madness. Elias and Clara, once lonely, now complete, held hands under the pines, their names etched in each other's hearts, a story told in whispers. The auction faded from memory, but not their beginning. Clara wore the silver ring, now worn, always cherished. Elias still chopped wood, slower but steady, her voice his strength. They aged, but their love didn't. Each dawn, they spoke each other's names, a ritual of joy. The forest cradled them, their home a beacon of what love could do, turn $2 into a lifetime. Under a twilight sky, Elias and Clara sat on their bench, hands entwined. Hope slept inside, the fire crackling. "Clara," he said, voice soft. "Elias," she replied, smiling. Their names were enough, carrying every moment, pain, joy, redemption. The stars watched, the pines whispered, and their love, born from a sack and $2, shone brighter than ever, eternal as the night.